Go.
Police! Police! Yeah, go move! Man up, go move!
Watch out.
Police! Stand down!
Colombia's most wanted drug lord captured. After more than a decade on the run, this fugitive didn't seem fazed by the cameras.
Inside the walls of America's toughest prisons, some names strike fear into everyone.
He was the world's most wanted drug trafficker. For decades, the ruthless Joaquim El Chapo Guzman destroyed millions of lives and reaped billions of dollars.
From the guards to the inmates and even people outside the prison. Known for their unmatched brutality and chilling reputation, these men have become legends of terror even behind bars. Their story is one of violence, power, and a life of crime that defies redemption. What makes them the most feared men in the entire US prison system? Join us as we uncover the dark side of jail, exposing figures whose names are spoken in whispers out of fear.
The near-mythic tale of El Chapo brought crashing down by an army of law enforcement agencies, chief among them the DEA.
Fotio Freddy Gaius. Growing up as a Greek-American, Fotios Gaius couldn't become a made man in the Italian mafia because of his heritage. However, the respect he commanded could have easily made people mistake him for one. Freddy and his brother, Ty, started as errand boys, but they soon found their role as enforcers in the underworld while working for Anthony Arilotta, a rising mobster. In 2003, Arilotta became a full-fledged member of the Genovese crime family's Springfield faction. With his promotion, the Gaius brothers also climbed the ranks, earning their place through violence, including the execution of Arilotta's brother-in-law, Gary Westermann. That same year, Arthur Negro, the acting boss of the family, ordered a hit on Adolfo Bruno, an aging gangster whose time was up. Freddy was chosen as the executioner. His careful planning and execution made him untouchable to the feds for a long time. When law enforcement couldn't bring Freddy down directly, they turned to his former boss, Arilotta, who became an informant for the feds. In 2011, the FBI charged Freddy for taking the lives of Westermann and Bruno and for being the getaway driver in a failed hit on Bronx Union boss, Frank Dodabo. The hit on Dodabo stemmed from a petty argument with Nigro over Tony Bennett concert tickets. Like any hardened criminal, Freddy wasn't afraid of prison time. He lived strictly by the mafia's code, no snitching and no harm to women. Staying true to his principles, he refused to cooperate with the authorities even when facing a life sentence. He was sent to a federal prison in West Virginia, where he prepared to live out the rest of his days behind bars. Fast forward to October 29, 2018. Fotios learned that a notorious figure, Boston gangster and FBI informant, Whitey Bulger, had been transferred to the same prison as him. The next morning, chaos erupted when the 89-year-old Bulger was found lifeless in his cell. The once-feared mob boss had been brutally attacked by inmates wielding a sock filled with a padlock and a shiv. His body showed the savagery of the assault. His eyes were nearly gouged out, and his tongue was almost severed.
Sources are telling CBS News that Bulger was beaten to a pulp, his eyes nearly gouged out.
Fotios Gaius was immediately declared the prime suspect and was considered a threat to other prisoners, so he was transferred to the high-security ADX Florence facility in September 2023.
Jace was convicted largely on the testimony of gangsters turned prosecution witness.
6 years after the crime, Fotios was handed an additional 25 years in prison, logically making his total jail time a life sentence and an additional 25 years. The name Fotios Gaius inspired fear in the criminal underworld, but he was still taking orders from others. Most gang leaders didn't see him as a real threat. That's not the case. For the next man on our list, he built and led a drug empire with over 5,000 loyal followers all under his control.
Authorities in Colombia say they've captured the country's most wanted drug trafficker. The feared leader of a major drug cartel, Dario Antonio Usuga, had been on the run for more than a decade.
Known as Otoniel, the former Colombian drug lord may be locked up in ADX Florence, but his name still sends chills down the streets of Colombia. Born into deep poverty, O'Connell was drawn to violence early on. At just 18, he joined the People's Liberation Army, a guerrilla group fighting for the poor against the government. However, 2 years later, the group signed a peace deal, ending their violent struggle. Displeased and craving the chaos of war, the 20-year-old O'Toniel joined the far-right paramilitary and drug trafficking group, Autodefensas Unidas de Colombia, plunging deeper into a life of drugs and violence. O'Toniel steadily climbed the ranks, and his ruthless, no-nonsense reputation caught the attention of top commanders and rival leaders. In 2005, Daniel Rendon Herrera, leader of the Los Urbanos drug cartel, recruited O'Toniel and his brother Giovanni as his second-in-command. But 4 years later, Rendon was captured, leaving the Usuga brothers in charge. After Giovanni was ambushed during a police raid, O'Toniel became the sole leader of the cartel, later renamed the Gulf Clan. Federal prosecutors in New York described him as the most violent and significant Colombian drug trafficker since Pablo Escobar, and he was recognized as the Gulf Clan's supreme leader. O'Toniel expanded the cartel's operations, regularly shipping large amounts of cocaine to the United States, orchestrating the deaths of hundreds of police officers and committing numerous other crimes, including the horrific abuse of minors. Despite the efforts of Colombian and US authorities, capturing him proved nearly impossible. Over 132 arrest warrants were issued, but he remained untouchable. In 2015, a US-backed task force of 1,200 anti-drug officers was created, armed with financing and advanced weapons. Still, O'Neill eluded them. In one encounter, his men shot down a Colombian police helicopter, killing 10 officers. 2 years later, the US State Department offered a $5 million reward for information leading to his capture. In response, O'Toniel released a video on Facebook claiming he wanted to negotiate with law enforcement. When ignored, he ramped up his drug trafficking operations, becoming a near-mythical figure in the criminal underworld. Luck finally turned in favor of Colombian intelligence in 2021 when they discovered O'Toniel was hiding in the Yoruba region of northwestern Colombia near the Panamanian border. His location was uncovered after tracking cartel members delivering a specific medication for his kidney disease. On October 22, 2021, a military team codenamed El Blanco launched a massive operation involving 100 troops, 20 helicopters, and 10 drones. They blocked rivers and roads to cut off escape routes while Navy ships patrolled the coast. The next day, O'Toniel was captured in a remote mountainous area. At the time, he was Colombia's most wanted drug lord with an $800,000 bounty on his head. Even while in captivity and his cartel weakened, O'Toniel gave them orders to continue trafficking drugs. To everyone's surprise, in February 2022, during a hearing with the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, Swing O'Toniel revealed that he had organized his surrender and collaborated with the Colombian army. However, police interrupted the session, accusing him of planning an escape. Recordings of his testimony were later stolen. Fearing O'Toniel's influence in Colombia, authorities extradited him to the United States on May 4, 2022, marking the end of his reign as one of Colombia's most infamous drug lords. O'Donnell pleaded guilty in New York to leading a violent cartel and paramilitary group, sealing his fate for decades in prison. He was sentenced to 45 years behind bars and was ordered to pay $216 million fine. According to U.S. District Judge Dora Irizarry, O'Donnell trafficked nearly 100,000 kilograms of cocaine into the U.S. and was extraordinary among drug dealers, even surpassing the notorious Pablo Escobar in scale. Given his track record of ordering the brutal hit on Colombian police officers, soldiers, and civilians, the feds could not risk him possibly influencing certain actions on American soil. So the court decreed that he is to serve his sentence at ADX Florence. While O'Tonio is one of the most powerful drug lords, even he can't match the kingpin who treats prison like a revolving door coming and going whenever he pleases. This list wouldn't be complete without him. El Chapo.
In the blood-soaked world of international drug cartels, for the top cops of U.S. law enforcement, Joaquin Guzman was public enemy number one.
The name Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Loera might not sound familiar, but mentions El Chapo, and it grabs everyone's attention. Guzman, known by the nickname El Chapo,
He was the world's most wanted drug trafficker. For decades, the ruthless Joaquim El Chapo Guzman destroyed millions of lives and reaped billions of dollars.
this former Mexican drug lord and leader of the Sinaloa cartel, is believed to be responsible for the deaths of over 34,000 people. Born into a poor family in Sinaloa, El Chapo grew up surrounded by the drug trade. His father, involved in the business to support the family, introduced young Guzman to the world of growing marijuana for local dealers. By the late 1970s, Guzman had learned the trade inside out. He joined Hector Luis Palma Salazar, a rising drug lord, helping map out drug routes through Sinaloa and into the US. Later, he worked for Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, one of Mexico's top kingpins in the 1980s. But with all his knowledge and ambition, Guzman wasn't content to work under someone else. So when Felix was arrested in 1988, Guzman started his own cartel. Under Guzman's leadership, the Sinaloa cartel gained immense power and wealth. Forbes even ranked him as one of the most powerful people in the world from 2009 to 2013, while the DEA compared his influence and fortune to Pablo Escobar's. As the leader of the cartel, Guzman believed there were no limits to how much he could move and where he could sell them. He oversaw the production and trafficking of massive amounts of cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, and heroin, smuggling them into the US and Europe, the world's biggest drug markets. El Chapo was feared for his extreme violence toward his enemies, but what made him truly dangerous was his ability to move vast amounts of drugs and escape the authorities time and time again. Guzman was first caught in 1993 in Guatemala and sent to prison in Mexico for drug trafficking and murder.
He used money, violence, and gee-whiz escapes worthy of a James Bond villain to avoid capture.
But in 2001, he used bribes to escape from a high-security prison. What made him so hard to catch and different from other drug dealers was his use of tunnels. El Chapo became famous for building secret passageways under the border that allowed him to smuggle tons of drugs into the US.
Suffice it to say that whoever built this tunnel, probably not their first try.
There's some expertise and experience here.
In 1990, federal agents found one of his tunnels in Douglas, Arizona. The tunnel was 300 feet long and included lights, electricity, and even a hydraulic lift under the floor of a safe house. It was so advanced that agents compared it to something from a James Bond movie. The bathtub was equipped with a hydraulic lift. It's been turned off. The tunnels were expensive and took months to build, but they were highly effective. They were big enough to carry multiple tons of drugs at a time, and many were dug so deep that ground radar couldn't detect them. The entrances were often hidden in plain sight, like one that started beneath a bathroom floor. El Chapo didn't only use tunnels for smuggling. In 2014, after being arrested, he escaped from a high-security prison by crawling through a tunnel hidden beneath his bathtub. Authorities tracked him down days later in Mazatlan, but he quickly escaped again through an even bigger tunnel, almost a mile long, leading to a nearby farmhouse. This time, he used a motorcycle to travel through the tunnel in under 10 minutes. Despite the celebrations in Sinaloa after his escape,
The near mythic tale of El Chapo brought crashing down by an army of law enforcement agencies.
El Chapo's freedom didn't last long. A few months later, he was captured again after a fierce gunfight in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. Though he managed to escape once more, this time through a tunnel hidden behind a mirror, authorities caught him shortly after he tried to flee through a manhole. He was extradited to the US and is now facing time in ADX Florence. The authorities take his security so seriously that they even shut down the Brooklyn Bridge when moving him between his jail cell and the courthouse. Even while behind bars, El Chapo still pulls strings. In 2018, 2 more tunnels were found on the US-Mexico border. One connected to the back of an old KFC in Arizona and the other in California, where authorities discovered an unfinished tunnel with solar-powered electricity and ventilation systems. While El Chapo's reign left a trail of destruction, he wasn't the type to get his hands dirty in the bloodbaths. The next gang leader on our list made chaos his signature. Micah Hell Jace, Michael Jace, known for his role in The Shield, was sentenced to 40 years to life for the 2014 murder of his wife, April Jace. The 53-year-old actor fatally shot her in their home, delivering 1 shot to her back and 2 to her legs. Jace later admitted he wanted her to experience pain and revealed he initially planned to take his own life. During the trial, their 10-year-old son testified that Jace chillingly said, "If you like running, then run to heaven," before firing. While the defense argued for voluntary manslaughter, citing intense emotions, prosecutors contended Jace was enraged over his wife's desire for a divorce. Once an actor with roles in Planet of the Apes and Forrest Gump, Jace's career is now eclipsed by this tragedy, leaving him to serve a lengthy prison sentence for his actions. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson, best known for his role as Stephen Hyde on That 70s Show, 1998 to 2006, experienced a sharp fall from grace after multiple women accused him of sexual assault in the mid-2000s. Arrested in 2020 and charged with 3 counts of sexual molestation, the allegations severely tarnished his reputation and career, leading to his talent agency cutting ties with him. At 47, Masterson's legal troubles remain unresolved, with his case continuing to attract intense public and industry scrutiny. His story serves as a stark reminder of the profound consequences such allegations can have on both personal and professional lives. Danny Masterson, famous for That 70s Show, was sentenced for multiple assault charges, sparking debates about the role of power and influence in Hollywood. Do you think the industry enables this kind of behavior, or is it changing for the better? Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar, once a prominent figure on the reality TV show 19 Kids and Counting, has fallen from grace following his conviction for possessing child sexual abuse material. This disturbing revelation has sent shockwaves through the public and exposed a darker side to the seemingly idyllic family portrayed on television. In December 2021, Duggar was sentenced to 12.5 years in federal prison. Recent updates to his prison records have indicated a revised release date of October 2, 2032. While the specific reason for this change remains undisclosed, it has sparked speculation and concern. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced film producer whose actions ignited the Me Too movement, received an additional 16-year prison sentence in Los Angeles after being convicted of molesting and sexually assaulting a European model in 2013. Already serving a 23-year sentence for similar crimes in New York, Weinstein's victims expressed that while the sentence couldn't undo the trauma, it brought a sense of justice. The trial exposed Weinstein's defense team's misogynistic tactics, even targeting accusers like Jennifer Siebel Newsom, wife of California's governor. Weinstein, now a frail 70-year-old, maintained his innocence and pleaded for leniency, but refused to acknowledge wrongdoing. This sentencing marks a pivotal moment for survivors, reinforcing that accountability can reach even the most powerful figures. Harvey Weinstein's conviction marked a turning point for the Me Too movement, holding one of Hollywood's most powerful producers accountable. Do you think his sentencing has truly changed the industry, or is there still a long way to go? Carin Walker. Carin Walker, a Los Angeles rapper and actor known for his role in the 2018 film Superfly, has been handed a severe sentence of 50 years to life in prison for multiple sexual molestation charges. In this harrowing case, Walker, 27 years old, was found guilty of sexually abusing a total of 7 people, 3 of whom were children. Disturbingly, he had already been a registered sex offender since 2013, indicating a history of predatory behavior. The series of crimes that began in 2013 required Walker to register as a lifetime sex offender, as reported by the news. On April 18th, A Van Nuys jury delivered their verdict, convicting the performer on 3 counts of forcible sexual crimes, 2 counts of inappropriate sexual contact with a minor, 2 counts of sexually abusing a victim while inebriated, and 1 count of assault with the intent to perform oral copulation. It's a powerful reminder that fame and talent can't protect you from the consequences of your actions. What dragged this old man into the tension hall of judgment? Stay tuned as we delve into these stories of sad endings. Which of these stories strikes you the most? Tell us on the comment section.